several year relationship with BRG, now BRGM. And so I've been doing a lot of the English editing for ICRS. And so I've seen a lot of the articles come through about the work and have been excited. My state in America has been decimated in terms of its peatland. And so I'm really interested in learning more from you today. You have approximately 40 to 45 minutes. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I have to keep an eye on the YouTube comments. And so I was hearing myself talk. You have about 45 minutes to share, and then we will take questions. And at the time for questions, I will ask you how you would like to proceed. Sometimes people take one question at a time. Sometimes people choose to take three. But the floor is open to you. Welcome once again, and thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you, Pak Mike, Ibu Fatima, and other colleagues from CRCS, and also all the participants. Good afternoon from Jakarta. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm very glad to join this discussion because I think this is a valuable opportunity for us to share about our thought and also activities in order to get more insight from academics and also practitioners related to how we integrate the ethics, including the religious ethics, into environmental management. So my presentation hopefully will be less than 40 minutes, Pak Mike, will be divided into three parts. The first part, I will little bit introduce you all about our organization and also our work as a context. And then after that, I will share about activities that we already conducted with regard to involve the religious issues into our work. And then the last part, some lesson learned and also point of discussion. So if I can share my presentation, okay. Okay, I will start with this one. So our organization, our agency, new name now is Peatland and Mangrove Restoration. Previously, when we worked together with CRCS, the name is Peatland Restoration Agency. And in 2020, in December exactly, the president decided to extend the task of the Peatland Restoration Agency and also adding the new task in this agency, that is the mangrove rehabilitation. So our establishment, based on the presidential regulation 120/2020, and then this agency is in Indonesian governmental structure called as a non-structural agency. So we are responsible to the president, and then we conduct a special task. And in this regard, the task is first to facilitate the acceleration of the peatland restoration, and also the improvement of the community welfare in the peat provinces in Indonesia. That is 7 provinces. Riau and South Sumatra, Jambi in Sumatra, and then 3 in Kalimantan, West Kalimantan, Central Kalimantan and South Kalimantan, and Papua. But for the mangrove rehabilitation, we also have the task to accelerate the rehabilitation. But the location is only in 9 provinces. That is including again Riau and West Kalimantan, but additional provinces include North Sumatra, Bangka Belitung, Riau Island, East and North Kalimantan, and also West Papua and Papua. There are several functions of this agency. Most of them related to the planning and also for the technical intervention for the peatland and mangrove, and also special tasks for the improvement of the community livelihoods and the socialization and education of the peatland and also mangrove to wider stakeholders. That is the task or the function that is under our responsibility. So this is the map where we work and also our target. As I mentioned earlier, that we work in the whole Kalimantan for peatland and mangrove. We also work in the half of Sumatra and the whole Papua. And the target of the peatland restoration that we need to achieve until 2024 is 1.2 million hectares. And then for the mangrove rehabilitation is the 600,000 hectares. Why we need to achieve this target? Because basically this agency work only for degraded peatland and mangrove. So we do not work for the pristine for the good condition of the peatland and mangrove. So that's why the map here indicate that this is the location in Indonesia where we can find the degraded peatland and mangrove. And this is the commitment of the government, that the first one, in order also to control the climate change and to show the commitment to achieve the target of the reducing the emission of the greenhouse gases. So that's why to prevent fire mostly from peatland is very important. And then in 2016 until 2020, there were 2.6 million hectares of the degraded peatland that need to be restored. Some of them already restored, but you know that the work of the restoration is basically a long-term program that cannot be achieved only in 5 years. So that's why the extension of this agency is to continue working on the restoration. And now the target being 1.2 million hectares. The approach in the restoration, we call it as the 3R. The first one is by doing the rewetting, because we know that the problem of the degraded peatland is because people drainage the land. So that's why the easiest way to recover the environment is to making them rewet again. So that's why the rewetting approach is our priority by constructing what we call as a peatland rewetting infrastructure, such as the canal blocking. We also build the deep wells and also canal backfilling. The second approach is the revegetation, is to replant the ex-burn peatland areas mostly with the species that is very common found in the peatland. And the last approach is the revitalization of the local community livelihood. We understand that we cannot do any environmental project if we put aside the community interest. So that's why to integrate the issue of the welfare of the community is very much being our concern in this sense. There are several activities to help to improve the livelihood by providing alternative livelihood, by strengthening the economic institution, etc. And to do so, we also work closely with the village in our area. We have a program that called Peatland Stewardship Villages, or Desa Mandiri Peduli Gambut. We also do this in the mangrove ecosystem, but because we just started with the mangrove rehabilitation, so the progress in the mangrove villages is not is not advanced as the one that we did in the peatland villages. So basically, the program of the Desa Mandiri Peduli Gambut is one to prepare that the community ready to involve in the peatland restoration. And also they need to have the advantages from the peatland restoration itself. The second one is to ensure that there is an integration between the objective of the peatland restoration into village development planning. So that's why we put the village government is as a very key actor here, because we do not want that the peatland restoration is like projects, it's like development projects, short-term projects, etc., where people do not think how to continue, working on this project if we have to leave this area. So that's why integrating the activities and also objective into the village development plan is very important. We also doing many activities to strengthen the village institution. But we know that all of the activities, the approaches that I mentioned is basically technical, is basically address for the economic issues and also governance issues. But what would be the soul that will make these activities can be voluntarily running by the people. So that's why in this sense, we think that using the religious ethics as an approach is very important. And we started this initiative in 2018 by doing several training with the MUI for the DAI, and also we work with the PGI for the priest, and then the target groups that we work at the time is basically the ones who work directly with the community. So if we talk about the Dai, the Ustad, it must be the ones that living in the village, because we do not want to make any gap in sending the information. But not only doing the capacity building during the training, we also provide together with the MUI, together with the PGI, together with the several academics, the books, the guidebooks for the dakwah, for the khutbah, and etc. And in 2019 and 2020, we also move forward by helping the Dai, the priest, to also work together with the farmers that we already trained to do what we call as a zero burning peatland farming. And this is, in Islam, we call it a dakwah by showing example. Yeah. And why religion? I think we all know that if we talk about religion, that 84% mostly of the population has a faith, whatever it is. And in Indonesia, it's very important to talk about the religion approach. These are the argument, our argument, why we finally decided to do these activities. That the first one, we need to be innovative in our approach in doing the socialization, in doing the education. So that's why by integrating all of these activities into the attempts to also send the religious messages to the people by having a good environmental management in the peatland ecosystem is our choice. And then the second one, we know that every religion has, the ideology and also the good messages about the protection of environment. And the third, we understand that probably we as a government officials and also academics and NGOs that work with the community, sometimes we have problem of the communication gap with the people. But if we see about how the religious leaders talk with the people, seems that everything is, doing well. So that's why we think that the languages that the religious leaders use is something that easily understood by the people, particularly the villagers. And we also need to, to think how the issue of the environment cannot be separated with the values in the religion, and that must be reflected into action. So we do not just saying about the khutbah, etc., but practicing the values, practicing the messages is important. So that's why the activities by doing together with the leaders of the zero burning farming is the way to see how we 100% implement our values into action. And also we know that the network of the religious leaders is very, very strong, particularly in Indonesia. So that's why we cannot work our tasks, we cannot implement our tasks if we do not work closely with the religious leaders. And then this is what we call as the KASB approach, the knowledge, attitude, skill, and behavior. This is our effort to make a framework in the intervention by using the religious ethics in the peatland restoration. And these are some examples of our activities, including the training and also producing the materials and also practicing the zero burning farming together with the leaders. This is the examples of our work, and then the training, the curriculum of the training already recognized by the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. So this is now become the government formal training program for the religious leader, not only for the Muslim leaders but also for the Christian leaders. For this time, we mostly work with these two groups because the communities where we work, mostly Muslim and Christian. This map showing about the distribution of the cadre that already involved in the training and also the zero burning farming. As I mentioned, These are the examples of the module of the material, including the one that we worked with the ICRS last year, not last year, in 2020. We also work with the several religious organizations such as with the NU, with the virtual dakwah, particularly during the Ramadan, and also work together with the pesantren, with the masjid, to socialize this idea. And then this is the examples where we work with the pesantren in Kalimantan and in Riau, and also with the church. This one is the church. Now, what can we learn from our experience? We know that there are many things that need to be improved because we are also have very limitation in implementing this program. But we know that from the experience before, we can take some lessons, such as that we need the various approaches in our work. We also need to work with various parties, and then the effort to, again, to integrate the religious approach into development is a very, very important, and then to provide opportunities to directly show how the values can be transformed into action is another thing that need to be also supported. Last one, maybe we can discuss some these issues, how to make this approach effective, how to scale up, and then how to strengthen the roles of the academics, of government with regard to the integration, the religious approach into development in this regard, particularly on the environmental protection in the peatland ecosystem. And that's it, I think, that I can share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Mirna. I want to thank you, first of all, for your presentation, but I also just want to thank you for all of BRGM's work to help restore our environment. This work is something that benefits all people, not only the people in the peatland areas, but it benefits all of us, even living in Bogota. It benefits all of us, no matter what our religion is. I also want to say thank you just for including religious leaders in your work. So I am part of ICRS, but I'm also Pendeta. And there's many times when we, as religious leaders, we want to help, and our communities want to help the government. And so we thank you for seeing us as valuable members of society and valuable resources to benefit this nation and our whole world. And I'd also just want to say thank you for the inclusive approach, and not only Muslims, but Christians and others working together for a common goal. I know us at CRCS and ICRS, we are very much heartwarmed by that. That's what we want, and that's how we see us making a difference in the world. So thank you for that. We have many CRCS and ICRS students that are interested in ecology and faith. And so I hope we'll have some good discussion here. If you would like to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to use the little raise hand function, and I will call on you. Also, you may write your question in the chat box. If you are following along on YouTube, you may also write your question there, and I will try to keep an eye on those questions as they come. Ibu Mirna, would you like to take one question at a time, or would you like several questions at a time?
Maybe several questions, it's better, Pak Mike.
Okay. Do I have some questions? Please raise your hand and I will call on you. or you may just unmute as long as we don't talk over each other.
I show here, Pak Brian.
Oh, okay. He must be on my second screen. Brian, are you there?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mike and Bumina, for your presentation and the occasion within the chance to ask a question. I'm following your presentation, and it's very nice to talk about the role of religious leaders and also the role of the idea about ethics of from religion to evolve in the environmental how to deal with the environment. But my question is more than the ethics rule on religion, is there any things that we can get by, like a metaphysical or idea about the cosmology, something like that, that we can also use on the approach to make the implementation of religion become stronger than just give some more clue about ethics? Because I think in ethical thing, it's not only religion who can give that information. I think we can get that information from humanity, from the role of the social, something like that. I think religion can give more on the matter of like metaphysical approach or something like that. Is there any idea on that, or you already use that, or use that approach because you already involved religion and also religious leaders on that program? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second question? I will ask a question because this is something that concerns me. I am from Texas in the US, and we have many, many wetlands and swamps, or I should say we used to have many, many wetlands and swamps, and we've drained them all, and we've built houses, and anytime it rains, we have flooding. So not only have we destroyed our environment, we've destroyed the things we've developed. Are you engaging other international organizations in this work in terms of, have you taken your findings in terms of using religious counselors, using Penyuluh Agama to help support your work? Have you shared that with any organizations or governments outside of Indonesia? Okay, we don't have a third question yet. We'll go ahead and Bu Myrna, you can respond to those first two, and I will await more questions.
Yes, thank you, Brian. I agree with you that ethics is broader than just the religious rules, etc. So that's why we here put stressing on the ethics, whatever it comes from, and including here to see about the possible cosmology that can be easily understood by the people. So I highlight the word can be easily understood by the people, because we work mostly with the local people. We work mostly with the villager. So that's why the idea of the cosmology here need to be transformed into the languages that they can easily understood. And religious approach here basically is the way to transfer we borrow the languages of the religion to make people easily understand about the messages. And we think that not only by delivering the messages, but also, as I mentioned, to show the example. So that's why we ask our da'i and also the pendeta, the priest that already involved in the training, now also practicing the zero burning farming. For Indonesian peatland, the zero burning farming is very critical issues. It's very important because many of the people used to burn their peatland in order to make it as a farmland, as a plantation, etc. in 2016, 2015, 2016, the government did the law enforcement to anyone that burn the peatland. But if when we talk with the people, since that they were very frightened, they were very insecure, etc. So with the long discussion with the people, finally we found that there must be something that we need to do together, and we work with the farmers, we work with the people to do trial and error in finding what would be the most suitable technology that we can apply in this degraded peatland without making the situation getting worse, but also to help the people continuing their agricultural activities. So in short, by collecting and also doing experience together with the farmers, we found the method of the zero burning. And when we did the training of the zero burning, we also talk with the people that please see that when you work in your land, this is not just doing technical technical things, but also as the one who believe about God, this is the way also you serve the God by using good attitude for your environment. So we remind them to remember that one. And to strengthen the message, we also ask the dai, the pendeta, also to do the same. And we know that they also think that, okay, that's also our need to talk something that very local contextual in our khutbah, yeah, because sometimes they think that we do not know how to talk with the people. In Muslim, every Friday, they have to make a khutbah. But the idea of the khutbah is something that they cannot easily get. So that's why they just put the issue from the social media, and sometimes they telling people about something that is very far from their life. So when we distribute the material of the khutbah that contain, is a very simple example about environmental issues in the village, many of them very excited, since that the material provide insight for them to talk everything that's a very, very down to earth with the khutbah. So this is also we think the way we can contribute to the debate in this country about how to make the religious practices not only as a formalistic approach, but also making it very, very substantive. And for Pak Mike, yes, we had communicated with the international organization under the UNEP, UN Environmental Program. They had the special program, if I am not mistaken, they called IRI, but we do not have any cooperation, any formal cooperation to have a joint program so far. Hope that
I'm looking forward to this program being very successful. I'm looking forward to many books and articles that you can share with the West, you can share with the East, so you can engage faith communities in this very important work. one thing you mentioned when you were responding to Brian was that giving religious leaders material for sermons. That is a very effective way about helping those of us who have to berkhotbah every week. We have an easy tool and easy resources to share this much needed work. We have one question from Pak Dicky in the chat, and I will read that in a second. You can look at that as well. Bibi, I'm going to ask you to share your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I want to ask something about the role of religion for environment. Because I have the several cases about the climate change, forest fire in the world. It is really important to find the solution, and religion and science is really important in the world. And I want to ask you, why you not find the research in the indigenous people or the indigenous religion? I think the indigenous people is really important to give a solution for a relationship in nature. Can you tell me about it?
May I directly answer, Pak Mike?
Yes, you can directly answer. And then
okay.
afterwards, if you want to answer Pak Dicky's question, we can do that as well.
Yes. Okay, Pak Bibi, about the indigenous religion, that's very important. We understand that also. However, if I can tell you that most of the population where we work, not the indigenous ones, we work in the peatland ecosystem that in the past being the location of the transmigration. So if we go to the location where we work, we can find the Javanese, the Sundanese, the Balinese, etc. In the location. So that's why now we work with the organizations such as Majelis Ulama and the PGI, because the majority of the people that live in our area are Muslim and Christian. However, we also understand that the indigenous religion also being important. For example, in Central Kalimantan, there are many good example of the role of the indigenous religion that can be absorbed. We had a conversation with the people that representing the Keharingan group in Central Kalimantan. However, we do not have enough time to continue discussing with them, and I think that would be our next priority also. Yeah, Pak Bibi.
Okay, thank you, Bu.
Yeah. Then Pak Diki.
Yeah, we have two questions in the chat, one from Pak Dicky, and then also below that is Pak Iqbal.
Using the language of religion and spirituality as a basis for policy. I cannot say that the present policy of the peatland restoration is based on the religious ethics, yeah, because the policy coming to respond about the situation is a very common process in the policy making. However, we put the energy of for religious values when implementing the policy. So that's example that I can share with you how we work with this. You're right that this is the very rational, very logic policy, but how to make it work? We put the religious touch in the implementation of the policy. Pak Iqbal, do you want ambiguity in rules? So far, we do not have any challenges from the religious community. And then I don't know what you mean by the ambiguity about the roles of the religion. Probably you can explain directly to us.
Yeah, thank you, Bu. Yeah, I mean by ambiguity is, I mean we always see that religions is not always one-sided in seeing reality, right? I mean, in terms of the relationship between religion and ecology, we often see that I mean, there are cases where religious leaders are taking part in the activities that are not environmentally friendly. Yeah, so I mean, we cannot assume that religions is always supporting of environmental protections, and often this is the case where when there are actors who finds interest with religious leader and they don't see that you know, the cost of protecting environment is good for their business or for their political interest, etc. So I mean, because religion is not you know, always ambiguous in my view. So I mean, in many cases, including the issues of environmental. So I'm not sure how many, you know, what kind of organizations, religious organizations you are dealing with. I mean, NO, Muhammadiyah, PKI, or what else, or if you have, you know, based on your long experience promoting this among religious communities, if you have experience interacting with local religious leaders who might be, you know, not very straightforward in their response to, you know, whether we need to do this, we don't need to do this, what is the point of doing this? I mean, there is something else which are more important than, you know, rehabilitating the petland, etc. So I mean, people have different interests, different experience, and we do not expect all religious leaders agree in one specific issue. So that's what I mean by ambiguity, Bu Mirna.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Iqbal. First, if I can say that we are not the authoritative organization that have to make sure that all the religious leader is being consistent with their environmental messages. Ambiguity happen with everyone, everywhere. But our concern here is how to find out the common issues. And in our case, the common issues is fire and haze. We do not have any, you know, any challenge from stakeholders where we work, including the religious leader, that we need to work together to prevent fire and haze. And so that's why we use this course to work with them, to see how they can help in preventing fire and haze by using their authoritative knowledge of the religion. Probably some of them have different interests, but we don't think that it's our task to make them being 100% consistent with their support to this issue of fire and haze. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Aninda. Aninda, please.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Bu Mirna, for your impressive work in BRGM. I have two questions. The first one is related to Pak Iqbal question earlier. So as you explained that most of the religious approaches is top down, yeah. So it's from the religious preachers to the people, from Dai to the people. So do you see any responses or maybe behavioral changes from the bottom up movement or initiative outside these religious circles? You know? So how impactful is actually this top-down approach? And if so, what kind of behavior that is shown, or maybe you have observed for the past few years? Do people really change their mind, or do people really like take this into consideration when they're making decision when they're burning the forest? Second question is something that I'm interested in, coming from non-religious studies background. How do you actually integrate these religious actors with the local authority? I'm saying about the Gambut barrier, the people in Desa Peduli Gambut. You know, are they working separately? Are they working together? Do they ever have any what is that, consolidation or maybe a coordination among themselves? Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, Ibu, Aminda is very interesting question. The first answer to your first question, that to be honest, that we do not have yet doing extensive monitoring and evaluation about the impact of these activities into the change of the behavior of the people in the whole areas. There was a study carried out by some academics from the National University, but this is only by using a sample, very limited sample. And the conclusion that there is a change in the behavior. But I cannot say that it could reflect the whole community that we work. So that's why if any of you interested in doing research about this, to see about what would be the impact of this program to the actual behavior of the people, that would be interesting. And the second one is about the bottom-up approach, is very also important. And so that's why, in order to combine the top-down and then the bottom-up, we use the Dai in this regard as the one who really live in the village. So we do not in our training. We prioritize the one who live in the villages. We can call it as a Kiai Kampung, or a Dai Kampung. This is what we target. So even though we work with the MUI, so the target groups is not just the MUI officer at the provincial and the district level, but we look directly the Dai Kampung. Because we work closely with the villages, so we have the facilitator in every village that we work. So the facilitator looking for the Dai, looking for the Ustad in that village to be trained in our program. If I can offer, seems that one of the facilitator here also involved in this Zoom. If you allow Pak Mike, but probably he can speak in Bahasa.
Yeah, who would like to speak?
Yeah, I see here Abdul Mutoin. He was the facilitator, the village facilitator in one of the village in Riau. Mutoin, masih di sini?
Tadi saya juga lihat nama dia. Tapi sekarang,
oh, no response. Maybe later. Yeah. So I think that's what I can respond to you, Ibu Aninda.
Thank you so much. Maybe colleagues in ICRS and also CRCS can do studies about this, collaborating with BRGM in the future. Good luck.
Okay, while we're waiting on more questions, if you have questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. I will ask one more question. Oh, Jonathan Smith has raised his hand again, so we will go to Jonathan first.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yes, thanks. This is such a very interesting presentation, and the work you're doing is such a wide scope across Indonesia, Ibu Mirna. So I wanted to ask you, maybe particularly with the peatland restoration project, have you seen over time any differences between the different areas in how the project developed in terms of maybe the methods that they used to protect the peatland or to stop burning, or different restoration methods? Maybe, for example, even though, of course, the land is the same in some ways between Papua and Kalimantan and Sumatra, but the cultures are different, the farming practices and issues may be different. So I'm just interested if, as you develop the workshops, if you found any new, any different kind of practices. And related to that also, were there any involvement of groups of farmers, like cooperatives of farmers or other groups who were involved in helping to, create these kind of new methods for how to take care of the peatland without destroying it? Thank you.
Yes, Pak Jonathan. We do regular monitoring about the impact of the peatland to the area, particularly to the fire, to the hotspot, and also to the humidity of the land, because we do the rewetting. So we do the monitoring, in order to see about the impact. But again, regarding the method, there are several methods. As usual. Scientists making method, and then the government confused how to choose the method. So that's why the result would be different. But if I can say in general that that there is a progress, such as the one that carried out by FAO, the one that carried out by other scientists from several countries, showing that there is a progress in the peatland restoration. And if we compare with the statistic also, the incidence of the forest fire and land fire in the peatland ecosystem also decreased, as with the exception that in several years, because of the anomaly of the climate, such as 2019, that's happened also in US, in Australia. So we cannot make the effort very effective only for that year. But after that, the situation getting back to normal. And the second one related to the, if I'm not mistaken, you asked about the different condition of the peatland and culture.
Sorry. So just to explain, just maybe that the way that the practices for restoration or maintaining peatland may look different in a community in Papua compared to Kalimantan or Sumatra. Did you find some differences in how the projects developed in the different communities? Yeah,
we find the differences. So that's why the intervention also different. For example, in Papua, we do not do the rewetting approach, because you know that the fire there mostly happen because local practices in managing the farmland, in hunting, etc. So that's why in Papua, our approach is not building the rewetting infrastructure, but doing more education, more socialization, and also the community livelihood. But in Kalimantan and Sumatra, the problem a little bit similar because people actively, intensively open the land using fire, etc. So and also there are a lot of plantation there that are making drainage of the peatland. So that's why the rewetting approach very intensively conducted in these two islands. Hope it can respond to your question, Major.
Yes, very much. Thank you, Mirna. Very helpful. Thank you.
All right, I'm just checking real fast to see if there's any questions on YouTube. None on YouTube yet. I have a follow-up question. My research here has primarily in Indonesia focused on migration. Migration from Muslim majority areas to Christian majority areas. And when I first started looking into this topic, I was looking at transmigration. And you mentioned earlier in one of your responses that many of the areas you work are like locations of transmigration. And so I have a little bit of a controversial question. Is transmigration one of the main reasons for the peatland devastation in these areas? And if so, what relationship do you have with Kemendesa in terms of future transmigration projects and protecting those areas from peatland devastation?
Pak Mike, the location that we work is no longer the target of the transmigration. So the people there is the one who involved in the transmigration in the past. Yeah, and second, we work also closely with the Ministry of Village and Transmigration, particularly to strengthen the capability of the village government and village institution to also involve in the peatland restoration. And then if I can also share with you, this is the our experience in Papua. You know that in Kalimantan and Sumatra, there is a need of the people to practicing the zero burning farming. Then my colleague told me that probably we can also do that in Papua. Yeah, but I said that wait, Papua is indigenous peoples. You know, we respect as Pak Brian said. We respect indigenous practices. And if we do burning, they have the local wisdom, to prevent the burning being uncontrolled. But I got also information that people in Papua want to learn about the zero burning. So it's make a question for me, why they want to learn about this? It's something different with their traditional practices. And we found that the location that we work, that is the transmigration area. There are Javanese, yeah, and then so they intensively, manage the land. They do not practice hunting and gathering like the other Papuans. So that's why the intervention that we provide, it depends on the needs of the people. If the people want that, so we will provide it. Yeah. And also one thing that I also want to share with you, that in doing the whole projects of the peatland restoration, particularly for the rewetting, we implement what international discourse say as a free and prior informed consent. So we talk with the people before doing anything. We bring our plan, we talk with the people, we inform them, we discuss with them about the location. And sometimes we need to change the location because the people say, no, we don't want you to make this in that location because this is our, because the land is for this one, that one, etc. So, the process sometimes become longer than expected because we also follow this free and prior informed consent. So this is, the example how we respect the people, how we understand that the different people, different culture, different need also to be included in this program.
Okay, do we have more questions? Please raise your hand or put them in the chat box. Checking YouTube. Okay, if we do not have any more questions, we can end today early. I'll give you 5 more seconds to raise your hand or unmute, send a chat. Okay, well, let me thank Ibu Mirna one more time. I appreciate once again what you're doing. I appreciate once again what you've shared with us. And for all of you students watching today, I want to highlight some things that came from Ibu Mirna's presentation in terms of your research. So one thing she talked about was trial and error. Sometimes you're going to go into these locations and you're going to have this great big plan, this research plan or this implementation plan, and it's not going to work. And so you're going to have to revise and adapt. And maybe you're going to have to move somewhere else. Another thing she just talked about was pre and prior informed consent, respecting the people and only going to places where they want it. A lot of times we have these big research ideas and we want to go to this place. In my case, I wanted to research transmigration in Papua, but it was not socially or politically acceptable at the time I was doing my research. It would have been detrimental to the communities and probably dangerous for me. And so I had to change. And so think about that as you do your research. Think about that into your future as you're taking the research and the things that you're learning and applying them in your careers. I think BRGM is a great example of that. And as we are all practitioners and people of faith that are looking to change our societies, I really appreciate BRGM's work in including not only religious leaders from Muslim population, but including religious leaders across the religious demography of Indonesia. And so we thank you again, Ibu Mirna, for that. And so all of you students, that once you're graduating, I don't know if they have any positions open in BRGM, but I would they seem like a place that I would want to work for. And I'm just Pendeta. Let me just send an announcement to all of you for next week. So next week we'll have Professor Naraja Manikam. He's a sociologist and former chair professor of Xavier Center for New Humanities and Compassion Studies at Xavier University, Bhubaneswar. And he will present his research entitled Living in a Broken World, Prophetic Anger and Public Compassion. We hope to see you again next week. And once again, Dr. Sifitri, we thank you and good luck and stay healthy and blessings on your work with BRGM. Goodbye, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Bu Mirna.